Hello and welcome back to The Lion's Den, the only podcast recorded in temperatures probably not safe for humans. Or at least that's the way it's probably going to go. Anyway, I'm your host Matt, as always, and today we have one very important topic to talk about. I'll do my best not to spoil anything. That might be your indicator as to what we're talking about. But I want to just start off with the comment about heat. Oh boy, I hate temperatures. I hate when it gets really hot and freezing cold. But I can deal with the cold better because, it's the UK and we generally have a lot of things to keep you warm, but not a lot of things to keep you cold. Like, for example, air conditioning isn't standard in houses. Especially the majority of basic housing does not have air conditioning because why would we? We'd use it for only a short period of time. But that short period of time is absolute hell, so not looking forward to it. But my idea is that I'm thinking of changing my bed sheet to a very low tog bed sheet, because I found you can get a tog rating of 1 for a duvet, so I'm thinking of getting that and hopefully keeping cool. I also saw, because there was an advert on a video from good old Linus Tech Tips that I was watching, and they were advertising this thing called 8 Sleep, I think it's called, and essentially what it is a cover that goes over your mattress, just any standard mattress that you have, and it has temperature control built into it. It's designed to cool and heat the bed to hopefully give you a really good night's sleep, which I thought that sounds amazing, because I've had electric blankets in the past for keeping warm, which are awesome, I will say, but I've never had anything that can cool the bed, and I'd love a really cold bed in the middle of summer when it's roasting hot. I went to look at the pricing. First off, you can only get it for a double bed, the smallest, and I have a single bed, so it doesn't work, but a double bed was £1,700. Yikes. And the problem is, that's not the only thing you have to pay for. You have to pay for a monthly subscription, which is also £14 a month, just so the damn thing works. What the hell? No. If I'm already paying £1,700, I'm not paying you a monthly subscription just to make the thing function. That's stupid and extortionate. Anyway, we'll see how the low tog thing goes because it's cheap, and hopefully I'll actually be able to sleep this summer because it sucks. I hate it so much. Anyway, now I've rambled on about why I hate temperatures, let's talk about Tears of the Kingdom, because that's what today's episode is about. It was hilarious. I was like a kid in a candy store on Friday when it came out. I worked the morning and I had the afternoon off because the thought was, I've pre-ordered it, and hopefully it'll arrive and then I can just play in the afternoon. No, it didn't arrive till 7 o'clock. That was excruciatingly painful. But when I got the message on my phone saying it was around the corner, I was literally stood upstairs looking out the window waiting to see that van come down our little hill that comes into our estate. And when it did, I went running down the stairs as they pushed it through the letterbox and grabbed the game and said bye to my family and ran upstairs to plug it in. Of course, the minute I plug it in, it has an update, because why wouldn't it have an update in this day and age? But thankfully, it was a small update, or my internet's decent, so it didn't take too long, and off we go. And I love the fact that the introduction is playable. I'm going to try and not say too much about the game, but just to say, the way they start the game is it's playable. It's like a playable cutscene, which is really cool and a really nice way to introduce it. So that was awesome. Really enjoyed that. It wasn't like you're just sat there whilst it's on autopilot doing cutscene information dumping. But yeah, really exciting, really interesting. I got that same sort of giddy sense of childish wonder that I did when I played Breath of the Wild. And it's very much in line with Breath of the Wild. Obviously, the world is the same map, although they've made a lot of changes to it, which I'll try not to say too much about. Obviously, if you've seen the trailers, I'll try and talk based on trailers. There's all the stuff in the sky, so that's a huge change. But obviously, they've also changed the base map on the floor, so all of the different areas of the map are sectioned differently, and you are moving around them slightly differently. That's as much as I'll say into that. So it's familiar but yet new, which is good. If you want a few small things, everything from Breath of the Wild in terms of core gameplay mechanics has been gutted, essentially, and they've put new things in place. So for example, all of the Sheikah Slate stuff in Breath of the Wild, all of your runes, they're gone. They've been replaced by new things that you can discover and figure out. And I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing. If they'd kept both, you'd have so many options to use, and that would be really overwhelming and really confusing. And I think as well for the developers, that would have been a nightmare trying to build puzzles that incorporate both sets of mechanics would have been a nightmare. It's a little bit of a shame because there are things that I liked doing with the Sheikah Slate and the runes that you can't do anymore, but I think what they have added in its place is also really interesting and allows for a lot of creativity. What I would say is that the Breath of the Wild was a sandbox that you could play around with and do a lot of fun stuff in. Tears of the Kingdom is like a workshop. They've given you mechanics and tools to do absolutely wild things, more insane than what you could have done in Breath of the Wild, or at least so far. So it's very different in that essence that it requires you to be a lot more creative with how you manipulate the world around you with the powers that you're given. Whereas Breath of the Wild is a bit more like, you can do this is fun, kind of thing. I'd be interested to see what people do with the physics engine, because I believe the physics engine is either the same or very, very, very similar. I remember seeing videos of people in Breath of the Wild where they'd get 2 minecarts, stack them on top of each other and use magnesis to create a flying machine. I wonder if people will figure out any weird physics exploits with the new powers, so that'll be interesting. I will say, I think my biggest gripe so far is that it's not hard. I think Breath of the Wild was hard because it was new and nobody knew how to play a Zelda game like that. And we were all getting used to how the game plays. But now that we know how the mechanics of Breath of the Wild work, we're very familiar with it in Tears of the Kingdom. But it's still very difficult because of the limitations they've placed on the game that I can't really go too far into. But they've done stuff that makes it feel like you're limited, and everything just takes so long. That would be one of my biggest gripes. It's like getting around takes so long. Fighting huge bosses takes so long. Resources seem weirdly scarce. I don't know if this is just because my brain is remembering late game Breath of the Wild where I had so much stuff, but I've been playing probably for like, I don't know, 15-ish hours, 15 to 20 hours, and I really don't have a lot of things. I'm almost out of weapons, because obviously they break again, and all of the weapons I've got so far are very low damage outputs, despite the fact that I've gone quite far and wide across the map. I don't have a lot of very good items. I think that's something that Breath of the Wild did a little bit better, was the pacing. It made you explore the easier areas, or at least guided you to explore the easier areas and build yourself up before you went diving into the more complicated problems. Whereas this one is kind of just said, here's the story, go. We kind of assume that you half know what you're doing in this game already, which I mean I do, but if you've never played Breath of the Wild, it's a little bit much to kind of throw you straight in, and there's not a lot to help you, would be my only thing. Also, going back to the whole getting rid of the runes thing, the runes gave you an infinite source of attack power in the form of remote bombs. You don't have that in Tears of the Kingdom, which means if you lose all of your weapons, or if you don't have any arrows, you're screwed. I've gotten to that point where in some boss fights, because they have so much health and because the weapons are so weak, I'm there like, I'm going to run out of weapons before I even kill this thing, and I've got no backup because I don't have bombs anymore. So I severely miss not having bombs, which is really frustrating, but I'm enjoying it. I will say that. Despite my gripes, obviously I can't talk about the rest of it, but I'm enjoying it. I think the storyline is interesting. It makes me want to explore more and learn as to what the hell's going on. But I would hazard to say, and this is controversial, I think Breath of the Wild was better. And I've read an article this morning that kind of confirms what I was thinking. Breath of the Wild was a little bit simpler, or a little bit more forgiving to start, whereas this is much more, you need to get it right or you're not getting it right and you're gonna have a bad time, which is not ideal, but I don't know. I keep coming back to this point of I've hardly done much of the game, so I can't really reserve judgment, or I have to reserve judgment until I've seen more of it. I think once, if there is further down the line, if there's some method of helping me get around a lot easier gets unlocked, that'll be nice. You know what I really miss? I really miss Rivali's Gale. The thing that just gives you an instant upwards boost. I really miss that. Because it was just such a great way to get around, especially in the early game now, because obviously I don't have a lot of places open to teleport to like I did in Breath of the Wild, so getting around is tedious and slow, and I'm just so weak. I just want weapons that don't suck. Is that too much to ask? Anyway, it's awesome. If you liked Breath of the Wild, you'll like this game. You might have the same gripes as me, but there's enough here to be overwhelmingly fun. That would be my comment. So anyway, before my laptop decides to die, I hope you've all had a fantastic week and stay safe, and I'll see you all next week. I never know how to end these. Bye!